Women who hated working with Vince McMahon. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Gail Kim. Gail Kim has always been outspoken regarding her feelings towards Vince McMahon. Kim had had several issues with McMahon, yet one of her fundamental issues with the former WWE chairman came down to his lack of understanding of diversity in pro wrestling. Speaking on wrestling with stereotypes, this is what Kim had to say.
I am a firm believer that you're a product of how you're raised majority of the time. And I think Vince just doesn't get it. You know, I've heard many times that one of his biggest heroes is Martin Luther King. But I'm like, it makes me still scratch my head. I think in their minds, they may think, oh, well, I hire ethnic people. That makes me not racist. It's like that person saying, I have a Black best friend, so I'm good, right?
Kim, during both of her WWE runs, took exception to how the women were treated, and when she left WWE in 2011, she eliminated herself from a battle royal to prove a point. Kim wanted to see if anyone noticed backstage, and in doing this stunt, she brought widespread attention to the fact that WWE, Vince McMahon specifically, had no interest in booking a competent, legitimate women's division. Francine. Over the past few years, numerous harrowing stories regarding Vince McMahon have surfaced, and it's easy to work out why women may have been uncomfortable around him. Appearing on the Eyes Up Here podcast, Francine of ECW fame discussed working for Vince McMahon during the Ruthless Aggression era, and she didn't have a positive experience.
When I worked there, I was told by somebody higher up, if you want to, be seen, you need to go get a bottle of rubbing oil all over my boobs and knocking on Vince's door and going in there and leaning on his desk and trying to get noticed. That's what I was told to do. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that.
Whilst it's good that the ECW legend stood her ground, nobody under any circumstances should be put in a position to do something that they're highly uncomfortable with, especially when it comes to nudity. Ashley Mazzaro. Following a tragic passing, disturbing details surfaced regarding Ashley Mazzaro and her thoughts and feelings towards her former boss, Vince McMahon. Prior to her untimely passing in 2019, she provided a series of statements to lawyers that were released translated into a sworn affidavit. In early 2024, Vice News released one of Mazzaro's unpublished statements. In one of the statements, she accused McMahon of preying on female WWE talent, and she said she was punished for rejecting McMahon's inappropriate advances. Mazzaro would claim that when her Playboy cover was released, McMahon attempted to get her alone in his hotel room. Mazzaro implies that McMahon harassed her by constantly calling her hotel room phone as well as her cell phone. Mazzaro reached out to Kevin Dunn, who advised her to tell McMahon directly that she was feeling unwell. In the months following this ordeal, McMahon began personally writing promo scripts for her, promos that according to Mazzaro were written with the intention of destroying her career. Sable. When Sable returned to WWE in 2003, it came as a massive surprise. Sable had departed the company back in 1999 and she left in controversial circumstances, and she even sued the company for sexual harassment. She would claim that she was pressured to compete in inappropriate storylines, and she was asked to wrestle topless against Deborah on Raw. While speaking during a virtual signing with Golden Ring Collectibles, Too Cold Scorpio stated that McMahon openly expressed his personal desires to have a sexual encounter with Sable. Sable was married to fellow WWE star Mark Mero at the time, yet this didn't deter McMahon from making his voice heard. Upon returning to WWE in 2003, bizarrely, Sable would take on the role of McMahon's personal mistress. It didn't take a genius to realize that this was McMahon acting out a sick fantasy on screen. Sable would depart the company the following year, and fans have often assumed that Sable was uncomfortable in her role, and it wouldn't help that her boyfriend at the time, Brock Lesnar, had exited the company on terrible terms. Sable has been extremely private over the past 2 decades, so she's never spoke out publicly regarding her time in WWE. However, it's easy to see why her WWE runs, especially her second stint, may have led to significant personal trauma. Nikki Bella. On the surface, it looked like Nikki Bella had a healthy relationship with Vince McMahon. However, in 2023, Nikki reflected on a time that McMahon screamed at her for the most nonsensical reason imaginable. Appearing on the sessions, Nikki discussed McMahon's obsession with control, and when Total Divas became a smash hit across the world, McMahon believed he had lost some control. As far as the boss, I felt like it was the first time he lost control of what he could make or not make. When Brie and I won Diva of the Year, we got in trouble. I got yelled at. I remember we came back so happy and he was like, "Oh, because you brought in all these new viewers and the women are now voting for you and all these new women are here?" Nikki went on to state that she was baffled at McMahon's reasoning for yelling at her. On the floor, everyone was on the floor like the Bella Twins are getting yelled at for being successful. Because it wasn't what they wanted. They were storytellers. They push who they want the crowd to be behind. Perception is reality. That is WWE to a T. Even though the fans think they own it, no, they laugh in the back, We own you at the end of the day. Stephanie McMahon. Now, it's well documented that Stephanie McMahon had a somewhat positive relationship with Vince McMahon outside of WWE. However, when it came to their working relationship, the two often butted heads. Fans have theorized over the years that due to Stephanie being so beloved by the locker room, this rubbed Vince McMahon the wrong way and subsequently created natural friction. Vince also had bizarre ideas for storylines involving his daughter that made her extremely uncomfortable. These include storylines where the two wrestled in a match and even a rejected angle where Vince would be revealed as the father of Stephanie McMahon's child. Stephanie also retired from WWE in 2023, and a report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter states that her working relationship with her dad was a big factor. That doesn't explain why this was a resignation and she left the board and cut all ties with the company she had worked for since she was a teenager. It was also conceded that she and Vince did have issues in working together as family members, and how Khan was a buffer who kept things smooth between them as well as between Vince and Levesque. When Vince was firmly out of the picture in regard to WWE, Stephanie magically resurfaced, and this wasn't a coincidence, and it was widely believed that Stephanie loathed working with her father so much that she had no choice but to exit the company and cut ties with her father when it comes to all aspects of WWE's business. Ronda Rousey. Upon leaving WWE in 2023, Ronda Rousey didn't hold back on her thoughts in WWE and her experience working with Vince McMahon. Rousey had a scathing opinion of McMahon, and she came to the conclusion from working closely with McMahon that he was evil. It's hard sometimes to know where the evil, unethical, slimeball character Vince McMahon played out for the cameras ends and the actual questionably ethical, many times sued and multiple times accused of sexual misconduct Vince McMahon begins. This quote surfaced from Rousey's autobiography, and when asked about her comments directed towards McMahon, Rousey didn't double down. The former WWE Women's Champion was also asked about the serious allegations other women have directed towards McMahon, and this is what Rousey had to say during an interview with News Nation. "It's not surprising. I can tell you the reason why nobody else is speaking out is because they know that there will be negative repercussions if they say anything about the company that the company doesn't like. Everybody is being held hostage by their careers, but since I don't plan on going back there unless they make some major changes, I feel free to say whatever I want to say, which I've always felt that way. I don't really care if they have me back or not. I can wrestle wherever I want to wrestle, and the truth should be told." And Lita. Lita is one of the greatest and most popular female talents in WWE history. Whilst Lita was featured in a prominent role for the majority of her career, this doesn't mean that she had a favorable stance on working with Vince McMahon. During a 2021 Twitch stream, the Hall of Famer revealed that when she had reservations about taking part in the infamous 2006 live sex celebration with Edge, Vince McMahon threatened to fire her if she didn't see it through. Knowing the details of McMahon's lawsuit, this is extremely distressing to hear, and it's horrific to think that Lita was forced to perform such an inappropriate act on live TV. In the months following Lita's act of defiance, the way she would be treated on TV would be different, and when she retired at Survivor Series in 2006, she was utterly embarrassed by the company in a backwards segment that is aged like milk. But there you have it, folks. Women who hated working with Vince McMahon. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.